June 1970. East Los Angeles. A one-bay auto repair shop on Cesar Chavez Avenue, 2 blocks east of the Los Angeles River. The smell of 40-weight motor oil and hot steel and tire rubber hangs in the afternoon air. A repo man in a pressed khaki shirt arrives at 2:15 inches the afternoon. He has a clipboard, a tow truck idling at the curb, and a court order signed by a judge who has never set foot east of Western Avenue. Miguel Reyes is 26 years old. He has a wrench in his hand and grease up to his elbows and a '63 Chevy half in pieces on the lift. In 6 minutes, that truck is going to be the only thing he owns that runs. Here is the story. Miguel Reyes learned to work on cars from his father, Carlos, in the driveway of a rented house on Mott Street. Carlos came up from Sonora in 1952 with $200 and a set of snap-on wrenches he had bought second-hand from a man in Nogales. He got work at a Texaco station on Olympic. He learned the trade with his hands because that was the only classroom he had. By 1958, he was running the service bay. By 1963, he had saved enough to lease a single-bay shop of his own on Cesar Chavez. He painted the sign himself, Reyes Auto. The letters were not perfectly straight. He never fixed them. Carlos Reyes ran that shop for 7 years. He fixed Chevys and Fords and the occasional Cadillac that wandered in off the freeway with a cracked radiator and a driver who did not know east from west. He charged fair prices. He kept his books in a spiral notebook in the desk drawer. He sent his son Miguel to Roosevelt High School. He sent his daughter Rosa to East Los Angeles College. He paid his rent to the building's owner, a man named Garza, on the 1st of every month. Then Garza sold the building in the fall of 1969 to a property company in Glendale. The new owners sent a letter in November. New lease terms. Triple the rent. Effective January 1st, Carlos could not make the new rent. He tried. He went 3 months behind by March. He had a mild stroke in April. The doctors at County General told him he needed rest and no stress for 6 months minimum. Miguel dropped out of his second year at Cal State LA in April to run the shop. He was 25 years old. He had 2 years of mechanical engineering. He had his father's wrenches and his father's hands and his father's books, and he had a lease payment he could not make and a property company in Glendale that did not return telephone calls. The property company hired a collections firm. The collections firm hired a man named Doyle. Doyle drove a 2-tone Ford pickup with a winch on the back and a company logo on the door. He had done 78 repossessions in the last calendar year. He was good at his job in the way that a man can be good at a thing that nobody else wants to do. Doyle walks into the shop at 2:15 on a Tuesday afternoon in June. He has his clipboard. He has the court order, signed and stamped. He has a partner sitting in the tow truck outside with the engine running. He reads the order to Miguel in a flat voice. Default on commercial lease. The property and its contents, including all vehicles on the premises, are subject to immediate repossession pending settlement. The Chevy on the lift, the shop's own service truck in the alley, the tools, the bench, the lift itself, if the owner sees fit to take it. Miguel looks at the paper. He looks at his father's wrenches hanging on the pegboard above the bench. He looks at Doyle. 8 days, he says. I have a settlement check coming in 8 days. A job I did for a fleet company in Vernon. 4 transmissions. They always pay slow, but they pay. Doyle checks a box on his clipboard. He does not look up. Today is today, son. That is the property of the collection agreement. Outside on Cesar Chavez Avenue, a dark green Porsche 911 is pulling to the curb. The engine drops from a high metallic whine to a low idle and then goes quiet. The man who gets out is not tall. He is compact, wide in the shoulders, narrow in the hips, with the kind of build that comes from doing physical things rather than lifting weights. He is wearing a white t-shirt and faded jeans and a pair of scuffed brown leather boots. He has on a pair of dark Persol sunglasses with the tortoiseshell frames. He came east on the freeway from his house in Brentwood because a friend had mentioned a shop on Cesar Chavez that did good work on older European engines. No questions. Fair prices. He has a '56 Jaguar XK140 at home with a fuel delivery problem he has been putting off for 2 weeks. He leans against the Porsche for a moment and looks at the tow truck at the curb, engine running. He looks at the man in the khaki shirt inside the shop with the clipboard. He looks at the young mechanic standing very still with a wrench in his hand and his father's name on the sign above the door. He takes off the Persol sunglasses. He folds them. He puts them in his shirt pocket. He walks inside. Where are you watching from? Drop your state in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. Doyle is explaining the towing procedure. The Chevy comes down off the lift first, then the service truck. Anything left on the premises in a commercial vehicle constitutes property of the lien. Miguel is not listening to the words anymore. He is looking at his father's wrenches on the pegboard. He is thinking about the way Carlos hung each one in its outline, the way some men hang their medals. The man in the white t-shirt steps up to the counter. He does not announce himself. He does not raise his voice. He just says, "Easy," the way a man asks what the soup of the day is. What does he owe? Doyle turns around. He looks at the man. He does not place the face yet, because the man is not wearing what he wears in pictures, and he is standing in the shadow near the bench. "This is a private collection matter," Doyle says. The man nods. "I heard. What does he owe to make this go away today?" Doyle looks down at his clipboard. Total lease arrears are $1,240, plus the collection fee of $200, $1,440, even, to clear the account. The man reaches into the back pocket of his jeans. He pulls out a roll of bills the size of a socket wrench, held together with a single rubber band. He does not make a production of it. He counts out 14 bills, mostly hundreds, pulls 2 20s for the remainder, and sets the stack on the counter under 2 fingers, flat, the way a man sets down a hand of cards he already knows has won. "That covers it," he says. "You write him a receipt, paid in full." Now, Doyle stares at the money. Then he looks at the man's face. The shadow has shifted. Doyle's mouth opens. He closes it. He takes the money. He counts it. He writes the receipt against his clipboard. His pen moves fast. He does not say another word. He puts the receipt on the counter. He picks up his clipboard. He walks out. The tow truck outside drops into gear and pulls off the curb and moves east on Cesar Chavez and does not come back. Miguel Reyes looks at the receipt on his counter. He looks at the man in the white t-shirt. He has placed the face now. The whole world has placed that face. He does not say the name out loud. He just stands there. The man pulls the Persol sunglasses out of his shirt pocket. He holds them in one hand. He is looking at the pegboard above the bench, at the wrenches hanging in their outlines. He stands there a moment, not saying anything, the way a man stands in front of a thing that reminds him of someone. "My father had a set like that," he says. Snap-ons. He kept them in a tackle box. Miguel looks at the pegboard. "Those were my father's," he says. "He brought them from Sonora." The man puts the sunglasses back on. He nods once. "What are you good on?" he says. "I've got an XK140 with a fuel delivery problem. Probably the pump, maybe the float. I've been putting it off." Miguel looks at him. He looks at the receipt on the counter. "Sir, I cannot let you pay for that and then pay me to fix your car. That is not right." The man tilts his head slightly. He almost smiles. It is not a big smile. It is the kind that lives mostly in the eyes behind the dark lenses. "I am not paying you to fix my car," he says. "I am paying you because the car needs fixing, and you are the right man for it, and I need it done right." Those are two separate things. They just happen to be on the same afternoon. He reaches in his pocket. He puts a card on the counter. His home address in Brentwood. The XK is in the garage. Thursday, he says. I will have it on the street. He turns and walks out. Miguel comes around the counter and steps to the shop door. The Porsche is already pulling out. The exhaust note rises through the gears once. Clean and flat and mechanical. The sound of something built correctly going about its business. And then it is around the corner on Fickett and gone. Miguel Reyes picked up the Jaguar XK 140 on Thursday morning. He replaced the fuel pump and rebuilt the float assembly and replaced 2 sections of fuel line that had hardened from age. He drove the car back to Brentwood on Thursday afternoon. The man in the white t-shirt came out of the garage and walked around the car once. He got in. He turned it over. The engine caught cleanly on the first try and settled into an idle that was even and steady and quiet. He got back out. He shook Miguel's hand. He paid the invoice without looking at the total. He asked if Miguel was open on Saturdays. Miguel said yes. The man nodded and said he might send some people his way. He said it the way a man says he might and means he will. Over the following 18 months, 7 different cars came to the shop on Cesar Chavez from addresses in Brentwood and Malibu and the Canyons. A Triumph TR4, a Mercedes 190 SL, 2 more Jaguars, a 1,959 Ferrari 250 that arrived on a flatbed from a collection in the hills and left under its own power 3 days later. Each owner had been told by someone they trusted that there was a young mechanic on Cesar Chavez who knew what he was doing and charged fair prices and did not cut corners. None of them named the man who had sent them. None of them had to. Carlos Reyes came back to the shop in September of 1970, cleared by his doctors for light work. He came back to a lease that was current, a shop that was busier than it had ever been, and a pegboard above the bench where his wrenches still hung in their outlines exactly where he had put them. Miguel told him about the day in June. He told him about the tow truck and the clipboard and the man who had come in off Cesar Chavez and set $1,440 on the counter under 2 fingers without making anything of it. Carlos listened to the whole story without interrupting. When it was done, he was quiet for a moment. Then he walked over to the pegboard and straightened one of the wrenches that had gone slightly off its mark. He asked one question. Miguel, did he ever tell you his name? No, Miguel said. He knew you would ask. He said to tell you it does not matter. He said the work was what mattered. Carlos nodded. He put on his shop apron. He went to work. Miguel Reyes ran Reyes Auto on Cesar Chavez for 31 years. He bought the building from the property company in 1978 with a bank loan he paid off in 9 years. He sent his own son to Cal State, LA for mechanical engineering. He hung a second set of snap-on wrenches on the pegboard beside his father's, in their own outlines, the day the boy graduated. Carlos Reyes died in 1991 at 71. In the back room of the shop, sitting in the chair he had kept there since 1963. The radio was on. The shop was open. In 2004, Miguel's son Eddie, by then running the shop himself, donated 3 items to the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. The first is the original lease receipt from June 1970, paid in full, stamped by the collection firm, the ink slightly smeared where the pen moved fast. The second is a black and white photograph taken from the sidewalk on Cesar Chavez by a neighbor named Frank Ochoa, who had been watching from his doorway. The photograph shows the rear 3/4 of a Porsche 911 at the curb, and inside the open bay door, 2 figures near the counter. The taller figure is holding a clipboard. The shorter figure, in a white t-shirt and sunglasses, has his back to the camera. The tow truck is visible in the background, pulling away. The third is the pegboard itself. 12 square feet of perforated hardboard with 41 wrenches still hanging in their painted outlines. Half of them in Carlos's set and half in Miguel's. The Peterson display card below the case reads, "In June 1970, a repair shop on East Cesar Chavez Avenue was kept from closing on a Tuesday afternoon by a man who came in to ask about a fuel delivery problem on a Jaguar. He paid a $1,400 debt that was not his, asked one mechanical question, and left. He did not give his name. The tools in this case were hung by 2 generations of men who believed a fair price and clean work were the same as a reputation. The display sits on the 2nd floor of the museum under a window that faces west toward the hills. 34 years between a roll of bills set on a counter under 2 fingers and 41 wrenches behind glass in a museum on Fairfax Avenue. 1 receipt. 1 Jaguar with a fuel delivery problem. 1 shop on Cesar Chavez that stayed open another 31 years past the afternoon a tow truck idled at the curb with the engine running. He was the king of cool. He never cared about the rules, but he always knew how to do the right thing. If this story reached you, do me a favor. Pass it on. Share it with a motor enthusiast in your life or a friend who never bows to the system. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. There are more McQueen stories coming, and unfortunately, they don't make rebel souls like Steve McQueen anymore.